I'd like to begin by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land on which we gather tonight. I'm coming to you from the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation, and we acknowledge the traditional owners of the land, past, present, and emerging elders from wherever you are tuning in with us tonight. Well, we are just two sleeps away from the WNBL 25 season. This is the 45th edition of the WNBL, the longest running professional women's sporting league in the country. So, what a wonderful opportunity to come together tonight and look ahead to the season we are about to enjoy. Joining us on the panel tonight, well, it's about nearly 20 combined WNBL championships between this combination. It's a very good evening to Lauren Jackson, Australia's greatest ever basketballer, multiple and reigning WNBL champion, and of course, head of women and girls at Basketball Australia. Good evening to you, LJ.
Hey, how you going?
Great to have you with us tonight. She's pretty fresh off the plane from accepting her latest basketball accolade. She's a multiple WNBL champion and assistant coach. Good evening to you, Michelle Timms.
Good evening.
Looking forward to hearing some of your insights shortly. And former champion in the WNBL and, of course, master coach with the UC Capitals. She's now director of sport at the University of Canberra and still heavily involved in the league with that role at the Caps and also as a wonderful commentator. Hello to you, Carrie Graff.
G'day.
Tess Madgen, retiring Opal's captain and a WNBL champion too, now transitioning into a new role in basketball, which we're excited to hear about. Hello, Tess.
Hello, I'm glad I could contribute a whole of one championship to our fantastic panelists tonight.
Hey, one is better than none. Some players play a whole career and don't even win one. So one very special championship test and lots of medals to our international level. And very excited to welcome the president of the Sydney Flames, Victoria Denholm, who's got some great basketball insights to share and a little bit about her basketball journey too. Good evening to you, Victoria.
Wow, and Tess, I'm waiting for my first championship, so we'll get there.
I'm with you, Victoria. We haven't got any championships to our name, but some storied experiences along the journey. Now, before we start tonight, we would like to send our warmest congratulations to Michelle Timms, who this month, just a few weeks ago, was inducted to the Naismith Memorial Hall of Fame. She becomes the second Australian player. And how about this for a stat? Both of the Australian players in the Naismith Memorial Hall of Fame are on this Huddle Up tonight, Lauren Jackson and Michelle Timms. But Timsy, congratulations. Can you tell us a little bit about the incredible experience you had over there?
Oh, Megs, it was unbelievable. Just being in the same room as, that's crazy to say, like Michael Jordan, Magic Johnson, Reggie Miller, Grant Hill, like just the list goes on. And so it was very exciting to be in their presence, I've got to say. Nerve-wracking knowing that you've got to give a speech though, so that was pretty nerve-wracking. But it was just an amazing, well-run weekend and one I'll never forget. It was probably the best weekend I've ever had. And I was so glad to have my daughter and my younger sister there to enjoy it with me. But it was very surreal and very humbling.
The scenes just look.
There's the ring.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. It's massive and you're never going to wear it, but it goes straight to the pool room. But, it was fantastic.
Loz, you were inducted a few years ago, but unfortunately it was during COVID. Did you have a bit of FOMO watching the amazing scenes come out of Timsy's induction?
Oh, absolutely. I actually wanted to try and be there, for her, but I had to have surgery and it was also my mum's 70th birthday, which made it a little bit hard. But just so proud of Timsy and I know I speak on behalf of everybody, but she's an absolute icon and me growing up, I looked up to her. She was the pinnacle of our sport. And without Timsy, there's no dreaming, there's no visibility about what we can achieve. And yeah, very, very proud to call her a friend and someone that I've looked up to. So
all I know is that apparently now that we're in the Hall of Fame, that you get to go back
Really?
whenever you want to be part of the ceremony.
Okay.
So next time an Aussie's inducted, we're on the plane, okay?
We're doing it. Yeah.
Double hip, double knee replacements or not. We're going.
Okay.
That is the
Sounds
ultimate
good.
girls' weekend, I think,
Yeah,
being invited back to the Naismith Memorial Hall of Fame. Timsy, we congratulate you once again, a true trailblazer of Australian and global basketball, and they were such beautiful and emotional scenes, particularly with your beautiful daughter, Kelsey. Now, the 45th instalment of the WNBL is just a few days away. It tips off on Wednesday night with the league's newest franchise, Geelong United, hosting Townsville Fire. And we thought we'd start off tonight's chat by having a little bit of a season preview. So I'm going to ask the panel what they're most looking forward to and who their tip is for the WNBL Championship. So we might start with you, Tess, as the most recent player on this panel and still very in tune with all the ins and outs of the WNBL. First of all, what are you most looking forward to this season?
Oh, it's a great question. I mean, the league is absolutely loaded with talent this year, so I'm very much looking forward to that. But I think what I'm most looking forward to is watching it in a new lens. Just from this point of view, making sure that the players are taken care of 100% on and off the court is my main aim this season. And so, although our players, I have no doubt, will achieve great things on the court, I'm really excited to see what they can do off the court and continue helping, all their dreams come to fruition, whether it's on the court or off the court. So definitely want all WNBL players to be living a very holistic lifestyle and making sure their well-being's being taken care of. Would you like me to do my tip? Oh, sorry, you're on mute.
There we go. Sorry. Before we get your tip, Tess, we might just give your new title a plug. It is your new email signature, but you're heading up player engagement at the Australian Basketball Players Association. So congratulations on that new role as you move into your career post-playing. Yes, who would be your championship tip right now?
Well, I think that the Perth Lynx have done a great job. Ryan's done a great job recruiting players to suit his style of play. They're quick, they're exciting, and they would have to be, if I had to choose a championship favourite for me right now, it would be them. I think Ryan's got unfinished business from last season as well. And, he's lost 2 grand final series the same way. So I would really like to see him win one.
Thank you, Tess. Victoria, as president of the Sydney Flames, will come to you. What are you most looking forward to for the season and your tip for the title?
Yeah, thanks, Megs. I'm heartbroken that Tess didn't pick the Flames, but I won't hold it against her. I'm very excited for this upcoming season. I think, the momentum behind the amazing Opals bronze medal and the growth of women's basketball globally will only continue to push into Australian women's basketball, which I'm very excited about. We're already seeing early, upticks in membership and ticketing numbers for the Flames. So I'm very excited that more people are going to experience and watch the incredible talent that we have here domestically. So that is definitely what I'm looking forward to. I cannot pick any other team than the amazing Sydney Flames as my pick. I think, we've had a couple last late season players that won't be joining us, unfortunately, for both negative and positive reasons. Very excited for Loz Nicholson, although there is no replacing her on the court this season. But I'm very excited for a few of our up and coming players, and having Swaney back off of her injury last year. I think she's going to have an incredible season for us.
Yep, the Swain train stopping all stations this season. We can't wait to see her in full flight. Carrie Graff, will come to you. I'm sure you guys at Canberra who do the game presentation and experience so well, and you've got Jade Melbourne leading the heart and soul in the nation's capital. But yeah, I'm sure things are going to be really high tempo there, coming off the momentum of the Opals, which Victoria mentioned. But what are you looking forward to, and who's your tip?
Yeah, absolutely, Megs. I think it's, as people have spoken to already, the talent in the league and the young talent, as you say, excited to see Jade Melbourne, what she can do off the back of a rookie Olympic campaign. Every club in the competition was chasing her signature, and she chose Canberra again. For the Caps to be back at the AS Arena, game one against Bendigo, I think is going to be an absolute ripper. Tickets are already almost sold out at the AS Arena, and Caps haven't played there since their last championship win. So that's going to be a huge game, and Bendigo are loaded with a bunch of old Capitals as well. So I think that's like many other games in the competition. I think some of the season openers are going to be absolute rippers. And I'm going to sit on the fence as a politician and not, like Vic, I'll say, oh, I've got to, I'll pick Canberra. Let's just see how it unfolds, because I think, like all other WNBL seasons, it's going to be a tight race down the stretch, and I think there's going to be some dark horses that make the playoffs that people maybe don't consider early.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting run to the championship, and great to see the Caps, one of their import recruits, Charlie Collier, former number one WNBA draft pick. She becomes the third number one former WNBA pick to play in the WNBL, behind, of course, Al LJ and Jackie Young, who represented Perth Lynx a couple of years ago. So that is very exciting. Timsy, we'll come to you. What are you looking forward to in WNBL 25?
I'm looking forward to my favourite point guard, Christy Harrower. Wish she was taking the floor, but as the coach of their Southside Flyers. So I can't wait to see them play. Being the only team in Melbourne now, I'm a Southside supporter, bought my courtside seats, so I'm ready to go for their first home game. But I'm really keen to see how Christy goes. She's so ready to be a WNBL coach. So I'm excited for those guys. But I think my tip would probably be I can't go past. I know Perth are going to be really good, but I can't go past Shannon Seabom up in Townsville. He always works his magic and gets his team playing so well. So I think they're going to be in the hunt.
Bit of a blank canvas at Townsville. They've had a bit of turnover in the off-season, but a blank canvas for Shannon to paint. We look forward to seeing that. As we finally, with this question, come to Lauren Jackson, who is a reigning WNBL championship player. You with the Flyers last season, and for the last few years, Loz, they've had a bit of turnover too, but put a great roster together. Will they be in the hunt again?
I mean, like the panel said, I think every year there's teams that sort of come out of nowhere and make a run for it. I've kind of got my eye on three teams this year, so I'm thinking obviously Canberra. I think Canberra are going to give it a fair crack. Perth definitely, and then Bendigo. Actually, I think Bendigo is going to be a surprising team this year with Tolo back, and I just think that they've got the pieces there to give it a fair crack. Yeah.
Yeah. I like that answer. It's very hard to pick a championship team, let alone a top four at this point. And LJ, just finally, something you're excited to see.
We just talked about it, but Charlie Collier, I think I'm really excited to see her in this league. I think it'll be interesting to see how her game evolves here. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing that. I think just watching basketball, Australian women's basketball, I just can't wait to watch it on TV. And I know my children are really excited about it as well. So I think just being a fan and sitting back and enjoying it, I'm just really looking forward to that.
And there's a real buzz to keep watching great Australian women's basketball off the back of the Opals and the Gangaroos in Paris, of course, and an amazing WNBA championship series. And our congratulations to Sandy Brondello for leading New York Liberty to their first ever title, and to fellow Aussie Alana Smith for the incredible season she had and final series with Minnesota Lynx. But we want to know what you're excited about for this WNBL season. Please send your questions through, because we will be taking question time in the last 10 minutes of tonight's Huddle Up. So we've had some questions already, and we've got some crackers there for the panel. So please send your questions through for the panel and tell us what you're expecting for the WNBL season. Want to move on now and talk about the WNBL as a pathway, because we've spoken about the likes of Jade Melbourne, and there's been a plethora of players like Jade and Ezzy Magbegor who've used the WNBL as a pathway into the WNBA and to higher honours, with the Opals opting to take that route instead of going to college. And we're going to see an influx of young Australian talent, whether they're coming back from college or straight out of the COE into the league this season. So I want to hear your thoughts, panel, on why the WNBL pathway is so important and the role it plays in preparing our future Opals. And Carrie Graff, we might start with you because there's some great young talent coming out of Canberra and representing Canberra. You've been a part of the furniture of the league for so long, and you can give us a great insight into the benefits of the pathway.
Yeah, look, it's absolutely critical, and I think it's been one of the defining differences for the Opals' longevity on, on the international stage, on medal podiums. That our best young talent for a long time. I mean, I think Tim's is one of the few Opals of the current era that wasn't an AIS graduate, and I think that the difference that people don't understand is, as a 16, 17, 18, 19-year-old, you're playing against women rather than playing against 18 to 22-year-olds for 4 years at college. And it's more so, it's not some people, I think, sometimes confuse, it's not the gameplay, it's your daily training environment. So 6 months of the year, as a youngster, 18, 19, 20, you're battling against women in your daily training environment. At every practice, at individual sessions, you're in the weight room with them, you're working out with the best of the best at 30, at 34, veterans that are true pros in terms of the way they approach their professional career. And I think that's the absolute difference maker. And similarly, our coaching, the talent of coaching in the WNBL is world class. And so you coached for 6 months of the year in every session you do by elite people. Sometimes, with all due respect to the US college system, unless you're in one of the great programs, it can sometimes be a crapshoot as to what the daily training environment's like, what the coaching's like, how you'll actually play. And there's still a real hierarchy in terms of being, if you're a freshman, a junior, a sophomore, a senior, on where you get to play. And I think the classic example is Jade Melbourne. Jade was primed and wanted to go to UCLA. COVID happened. Thank God for the WNBL, thank God for the Capitals, and thank God for the Opals. She stayed. And I think there's proof in Jade's story, as in many others, that Jade Melbourne would not be in the WNBA right now had she gone to college. She'd still be at UCLA right now. She'd probably be a senior at college. And I think it's it's what's made Australia so strong on the international stage for so long, is that key pathway as the WNBL for the training ground and breeding ground for our best young talent.
And Tess, you were part of that so recently as the Olympics in Paris, where Jade and Ezzy were your Opals teammates, and you've played with and against them in the WNBL. So you can give us a great perspective on how this league has prepared those two as an example for international and WNBA hoops.
Yeah, it is. It's one of the best leagues in the world. In this time of the year, there's obviously EuroLeague and there's WNBL as the two best leagues in the world. So it's full of stars from locally in Australia, and then it attracts WNBA superstars to play in Australia as well. So Graffy really hit the nail on the head with, you get to go up against women, against pros every day, and it can only fast track you to success. We saw Jade Melbourne in the hub in the 2020-2021 season. And, she went from barely playing, and 3 years later, she's an absolute superstar of the league and my pick to win MVP this season. So, you can't underestimate. And then I played alongside Ezzy at Melbourne Boomers and saw her growth from being, a role player to the superstar of our team. So having that experience, surrounding yourself with really great coaches in great systems, does really fast track you to success. And I think being in the coach's eye in Australia to get selected for the Australian Opals does really help as well. You're playing in the WNBL, competing against the people that you're trying to get a spot with over the top of on the team. And I think that goes a long way into people's selections as well.
So true. Thanks, Tess. Timsy, you can add to this as well. As Graffy said, you didn't attend the AIS, and one of your favourite players going around at the moment is Steph Reid. She also didn't attend what is now the COE, and we've seen her get some Opals opportunities, and she's currently playing her first season in Europe.
Yeah, I mean, when I went through, we had great coaches, as I think was Loz said that, our level of coaches here is fantastic. So I chose to stay in Melbourne and be surrounded by the coaches that I had here. But yeah, there's different. I think the important thing is there's different ways to getting where you need to go, and as I said, I was very fortunate with the coaches I had. And the thing about WNBL though is that it's so respected. Like when I went over there just recently to America, everybody was talking about the WNBL and the fact that so many of the players from the WNBA are heading down under it. It's a really respected league for them to work on their game as well.
Victoria, as president of the Sydney Flames, you've got some great young talent coming through your program. You mentioned Shanice Swain, but you've got some young stars coming straight from the COE. As president of club, how important is the WNBL as a pathway?
Think, to echo everything that's already been said, I think keeping talent in Australia and locally is really a huge advantage. And from an off-court perspective, we really wrestle with, the idea of keeping someone away from a college education because we're really big advocates of education. So some of the things that we've been doing in Sydney is launching university scholarships for female basketball athletes so that they can continue on the basketball pathway and not have to give up that U.S. basketball scholarship. I think that's really important. But I think from a playing perspective, the talent on this panel around me have kind of said it as well as I could.
It's so important to have that leadership coming from the top, though, at a club. So thank you for that insight. And LJ, finally, you began in the league as a teenager and, of course, part of that iconic AIS team that knocked off a team of women and mature players to win the championship. How important was it in your pathway before you went to the WNBA in 2001 draft?
Oh, yeah, the WNBL is a fantastic league. And I think that the earlier that we can get these young stars into the league and playing against women, the better. Girls develop a lot quicker than what guys do. They develop a lot younger, so it's important to get them in the pathway and in the system. That being said, there are so many different pathways now, which is the fantastic, magnificent thing about basketball. They can play in Europe, you can go to college, you can do whatever you want to do. You can, play it however you want to play it. But I do believe that we've got a really great pathway through the WNBL, and we've just got to keep getting these young stars into our league.
So well put. And it's like, anything in life, whether, it's going to university or getting an apprenticeship, there's lots of ways to get to your final destination. So it's great that our Australian talent have so many options. I want to now ask our two women that are currently involved with WNBL clubs about what community engagement looks like for WNBL clubs. So Victoria, we might come to you first, and we know that Sydney's heavily involved in their community. What does community engagement look like for the Flames?
Yeah, it's a great question, and community is so foundational, I think, to the WNBL and clubs. The community engagement is really what drives a lot of our fans and a lot of our, biggest supporters. For us, it's really about both connecting with Sydney, but also being the only team in the state trying to get out and do more regionally as well. I know last year when Tess was on the team, we took the Flames up to Newcastle and had hundreds of girls waiting to meet the Flames and do a camp with them. And so for us, it's finding opportunities to engage more broadly as well. But I think, especially as we're growing the league and trying to get more awareness and kind of promote the incredible talent and players that we have and keep, athletes engaged as they come up through the pathway. I think there's no replacing what you do in the community, and our biggest advocates are our athletes. And, it just takes meeting one of them one time for, someone to become a lifelong fan and want to continue to play basketball. So we do as much as we can in that space, and we'll continue to do so.
Yeah, it's been great to see what the Flames have done over the last couple of years, particularly in that space. And when you've had players and personalities like Tess and Kayla George and Lauren Nicholson leading the way, it's a great way to further entrench yourself in the community around you. Graffy, before we came on air tonight, we were talking about the Caps' new movie documentary, Go Big, which premiered at the weekend, and you were telling us that the cinema was full for the premiere screening. So that's a bit of community engagement in itself, but you have a very engaged community there in the nation's capital. Can you tell us a bit more about it?
Yeah, look, and I think that's been an ongoing part of the Capitals program and many of the programs for a long time. And I got to say, I learnt the lesson the hard way in a good way when I coached the Sydney Flames back in '93, and Mike Wroblewski and Bob Turner and Lorraine Landon led the organisation, the Kings and the Flames then. And, you had no choice but to do it. And I think the lessons in it are monumental. It's absolutely critical for all the things Victoria talked about in terms of fan base, in terms of role modeling professional athletes to young people. And I think it also provides athletes with life skills for life after basketball. You've got to be out talking to groups of people, whether that's school groups or basketball camp groups or at a sponsor function or at a hospital, or I think it builds skills that are really important for a working life post a playing career. And I think it provides athletes with some grounding and a levelness and some balance, with rather than all just focused on S&C and individuals and the game coming up. But I think there's really a balance about your life as a professional athlete. And I think most WNBL players are exceptional in terms of the way they, I'm not just talking about Canberra here, the way they grab on with both hands to doing that community work. And I think we've all got lessons throughout our careers of someone coming to our primary school as a kid. I mean, I know for me, growing up in Victoria, Beck Cole's dad, Gary Cole, came to our primary school. Soccer wasn't even a thing way back then, but I remember that, So I think it has massive impact, not just on the commercial side of the business, but for the athletes and for the next generation of young people.
Oh, Gary Cole will be very happy with that shout out, Graffy, that's for sure. Tess, I want to bring you in on the back of what Graffy just touched on. You obviously did so much of that stuff through your career and through different clubs too. You played for a few regional clubs. Has that sort of helped in your skills as you now move into a career post basketball, and a lot of what you're doing now is talking to the players?
Yeah, 100%. I think as a player, like it's already been touched on, we are role models, whether we like it or not. And lucky in WNBL, all the athletes love it. So we have some tremendous role models that really want to champion causes that are close to their hearts through lived experiences or something that's meaningful to them. And you can't be what you can't see. And I think nearly 100% of WNBL athletes are really passionate about inspiring the next generation of players coming through. I know that's a big value that's been instilled in the Opals program and trickles down through to the WNBL clubs as well. But yeah, WNBL has a really exciting announcement coming tomorrow. I don't want to do breaking news on here, but probably a long overdue initiative in the WNBL, but something that will impacts women's lives. So I'm really proud to be a part of that and to champion that alongside our amazing athletes. And my role at the ABPA is to really get players involved in causes and charities, volunteering that's close to their heart. So that's a big pillar of what I'm doing with the ABPA. And I really look forward to working with our wonderful role models and getting them out into the community. I know they already get out so much with their clubs, but we love doing it. We know it's really important to grow the game that we are out in the community. And so that's, I think, another reason why we're so passionate about it.
Awesome. We look forward to seeing a lot more of that happening, particularly this season and beyond, and hearing more about that announcement tomorrow. Over the last 2 years in the WNBL, win, lose or overtime, a constant after Southside Flyers games right around the country has been Lauren Jackson on a chair and sometimes at a table and signing every autograph and taking every selfie, and sometimes for hours, but she made sure that everyone got a little piece of the GOAT over her last 2 years. LJ, how important was it to do that and really have that connection with the fans who from all over Australia came to all of the venues to see you play and to meet you? That's very niche community engagement, but can you tell us why it was important for you to do that?
Look, I think especially in the first year, it was I never thought that I'd have the opportunity to play again. And I think I was just so grateful as well for the support that I had also gotten from the community. But I think, over the years, as you get older too, you sort of recognize the impact that you do have. And, for me, it was, well, I had a broken foot too. So I actually just wanted my foot to be in a bucket of ice. And it was easy for me to sit down after the game and sign autographs. But
whatever
look,
works.
it's yeah, so whatever. No, look, it's really important, and like Tess said, it's that visibility, the representation piece. Like you want to be able to have role models and look up to people and be able to touch them, and I think and talk to them, and I think that's been such a significant thing for women's basketball over the years. Like for as long as I've been in the WNBL, and yeah, it's important that they have that connection and can be inspired by people who have played, all over the world in Olympics and things like that. So yeah, very important.
And thanks to Alicia, who sent through a comment. LJ was so generous with her time after games, that's for sure. Before we finish on this topic, Timsy, I want to come to you from your time at the Bulleen Boomers, actually as an assistant coach. And it wasn't just assistant coach. You and Robin Ma kind of did everything during your time at the club when you won the Boomers' first championship. But how important was it to engage the community in terms of school visits, getting bums on seats? And there were a lot of bums close together at the Veneto Club in that time. But how big was it to get, sponsors involved, Bendigo Bank, all that sort of stuff? It was huge.
It's your lifeline. So, you did it. And I mean, I was really fortunate, and so was Rob, that we came through the Sydney Flames, and they really set the blueprint on community engagement. And so we took that to Bulleen, got out and did clinics and what have you. So yeah, I mean, it's your lifeline, like I said, so it's critical. Like Tess said and everyone else said, if you're not seeing, what is that saying? If you're not seeing, you can't dream, or whatever. Anyway, yeah, so back in the old days, especially the Flames days, we were out, our books were full doing clinics everywhere, and This Girl Can clinics, and taking out to school, helping the kids understand about the importance of having a dream, and how important it is to being able to change that dream around or mix it up, handle adversity, and the things that we'd all learned. So yeah, not much has changed, which is a good thing, because we were heavily involved back in my playing day, and also at Bulleen, and getting into the schools and making sure we're seen.
And that's what it's all about, as all of our panel members have touched on, and whether it's meeting, for Graffy, it was Gary Cole. We all have different heroes, but it's having that connection with someone that might come to your school or do a clinic, and it's really timely conversation too. With, as we mentioned earlier, Geelong United making their debut in the WNBL this week, and we know that Geelong have had women's and men's senior basketball teams, but never a WNBL team. So a whole region to be untapped and to bring new faces and bums on seats to United's games. So we look forward to following how they continue to build in the league. We will move on now, and a question for you, Victoria, because you've been involved with the Flames now, coming into your second, maybe third season. Is that right? Third season.
My third season.
Yep, third season as president. And you're very much part of a group that will help create and shape the future vision of the WNBL from next year and beyond. But we'd love to hear a bit about how your connection to the game began, because I believe it might include someone on this panel.
I mean, I'm sure it includes everyone on this panel in some form or the other. I think I was indoctrinated into the world of basketball before I ever really had a choice with my older brother. I was never particularly talented on the court like my esteemed panel members, but always had a lot of passion and enthusiasm. And, we moved to the US when I was 8, grew up in Australia, but, the one sport that kind of carried from Australia to the US was basketball. And so that really kind of grew my love of the game more, just having that kind of common ground. LJ was the only Australian playing professionally in the US men's or women's at that point in time, when our love of basketball grew. And so, my older brother had a really big passion for Lauren, and as a younger sister, seeing my older brother idolize a female athlete, to me that was the coolest thing, and I'm so inspired and love seeing little boys and girls at our games getting so inspired by the athletes on the court. I think that's really changing the sporting culture, both in basketball but across women's sports nationally as well, and I think it's really going to change the dynamics in the future. But for us, it's really how do we accelerate to get there faster, I think is really an important point in time. I think, investing in the league and the talent is there. It's just no one, it happens in kind of the cone of basketball silence. I think it's the best kept sporting secret in the country. We have incredible talent. We have players and coaches of everyone on this call already knows. And I think it's how do we get it to the mainstream Australian audience to come in and see a game. There's been no one that I've brought to a Flames game that has been like, oh, that was boring. Like, everyone gets really excited and energized by it. And I think it's really just how do we grow that reach and make sure that people are getting to experience it, I think is really important.
Yeah, that ties in perfectly to my next question, because I wanted to ask you where you see the opportunity for growth in the WNBL, particularly where that involvement will increase from next year and beyond. And I guess off the back of your insights, is it visibility? Is it bringing it to the mainstream, the marketing and sponsorship dollars that come with that, the bigger and better TV deals, more media? Is visibility a big part in that?
Absolutely. I think, when you look at any league or any business, right, you're only as good as your people and your talent. And we're really advantageous to have that be the core of what we're building off of. And it's already such a strong base. And so really it is, around creating and expanding the reach of the talent that we have. I think, I reflect on Tess and I were in a coffee shop in Melbourne a couple weeks ago. And she brought out her bronze medal out of her purse, and I was so excited, and I was like, this is cool. And then I looked around the coffee shop and I was like, no one in here knows who I'm having coffee with, right? And no one even's batting an eye that her like bronze medal is here and I'm holding it. And I was, like, this is cool and this is historic. And to me, the like most disappointing factor is that these girls who had this incredible Olympic run made a 24-hour news cycle and that was it, right? Like, to me, they should have been plastered on every billboard, right? We all love the Matildas and not to take anything away from them, but the Opals actually won a medal, right? Like, hello. And so for me, that is really, the value add that we can bring is really kind of elevating those stories and the league and the professionalism and really just kind of going from there.
Yeah, it's such a great point. And well, as my parents would say, I'm not angry, just disappointed. I wasn't angry, I was just disappointed a few weeks ago when Timsy was inducted to the Naismith Memorial Hall of Fame, and it was the same weekend that the WNBA finals began. As I mentioned earlier, Opal's coach Sandy Brondello coaching one team and another Opal and Victorian Alana Smith playing on the other, and there was no mention of either in the major Melbourne newspapers, and that just astonishes me, but doesn't surprise me, but it's very disappointing. Timsy and Graffy, I might come to you and talk about sort of the heydays and those days that really forged the path for the Opals in the 90s and early 2000s. What was the media coverage like then? And were the Opals and Basketball Australia and women's basketball able to capitalise on it then?
Go, Graffy. Your memory is better than mine.
Really. Yeah, look, I think, we hosted Oz 94, which was the Women's World Championships in 1994 in Sydney. And I was in Sydney in 93 coaching the Flames, and we'd won the championship that year. And there was 7,000 people at the grand final at the Sydney Entertainment Centre. We were back page of the Daily Telegraph. Like, it was, if you said to people, when was that? Gosh, 30 years ago. that was the case. People wouldn't have believed it. That women's sport is sort of riding a bit of a moment now in terms of visibility and different things. But the league was positioned then. We're in fact basketball in this country. Women's basketball was what all the other women's sports wanted to be. The Matildas, the Matildas did a nude calendar for the lead up to the 2000 Olympics, trying to get media coverage. The Opals had good coverage. We had the World Cup. Adelaide hosted grand finals with 8,000 people through the 90s. It was, they were heavily in the Adelaide news, on television, in the newspaper. Similarly, if you fast forward, it's probably Victoria's been the struggle in terms of getting into the mainstream media. Canberra, we've been fortunate over 20 years to try and build that media focus, but I think it's the next phase is the national visibility that Victoria spoke to, free to air broadcast, the better quality broadcast, that allows more sponsors to come in, that type of thing. But we've had moments. Basketball in the 90s, men's and women's, was booming, and it had profile, and it gave some of the bigger sports a kick up the backside. Certainly in Sydney, that was the case. The Sydney Swans were looking at what were the Sydney Kings and Flames organisation doing, because they were getting sellout crowds for the men's in particular. The Kings um, didn't make the finals for 4 years in a row, but had sellout crowds of 10,000 every week and 120 corporate partners. So basketball, and there was a bit of a phenomena too. A guy, I don't know, you guys have probably heard of him, Michael Jordan. But basketball globally was booming off the back of Nike and Jordan and that sort of thing. And it was cool to wear basketball shoes. Kids that now wear skate shoes wearing basketball shoes. So I don't think we underestimated the power that Nike and Jordan had through the 90s in this country. But you know, some really good stuff was happening in a lot of states in terms of the media profile and the presence. It's now we're competing against the profile and presence of a bunch of other women's sports that are either funded heavily by their male counterpart organisation, or they've had a moment that's really put them in the spotlight.
Yeah, it's a great point. And as a freelance journalist that works on basketball, women's basketball 12 months of the year, I know from pitching to media outlets, there is the appetite for a good story. And LJ, there's a lot of storytelling with what you and your team are doing with She Hoops. And that storytelling is from the grassroots up. And there's no shortage of good stories in women's basketball. We just need to keep telling them and amplifying the voices.
Yeah, absolutely. Women's basketball, we've been around for a long time, obviously, 45 years deep now in the WNBL. I think the stories are there. People love it. People love the product. It's just now about, getting traction, getting people to see us. Well, the girls, the talent. When the Olympics rolls around, we get a lot of great support nationally. Like, it's fantastic, but I think, during that 4-year cycle, it sort of drops off. So there's a lot of work that needs to be done, but I'm really excited about what's to come. I think there's some really positive things to come out of the Olympics, and then moving forward, I can't wait to see how our game grows. And it's very exciting.
The future is really exciting, and Victoria touched on accelerating this product and taking it to the levels that it deserves to be, and we can't wait to see what's ahead in the next few years. Before we head to your questions, we're going to zero back on this WNBL season, which, as I've said a few times, it tips off on Wednesday. Hopefully, if you're tuning in or watching on Catch Up, you can get to a game over the weekend, or can tune in via ESPN or 9Now across round 1. So this is the 45th season of the WNBL. And as we have just come off a conversation about what it might look like in the future, I'm going to finish by asking the panel, what will the WNBL look like in its 50th season? So, LJ, we finish with you with the last question. I might come to you to ask, what does the WNBL look like in season 50?
Well, we're playing in front of packed out stadiums, so it's professional. The girls are getting paid, wages that reflect how incredible they are. And yeah, we're getting coverage. There's investment in the league. It's commercialized. We know the players. Australia knows who our players are. So I think that's, what I look forward to.
Yeah, that sounds great. Timsy, what will it look like in season 50?
Well, I'm hoping that Tess Madgen can go into a cafe and people know who she is, but she's would have been long retired by then. But just what Loz said about people knowing who our players are, knowing their stories. So yeah, and obviously the points that I don't want to backtrack on what Jacko said, but bums on seats consistently in the paper and getting the respect that the league deserves.
Such a good point, and household names, isn't it? We want Izzy Borlace, Jade Melbourne, Ezzy, the name, and there's so many more to come, but we want them to be household names like, Michelle Timms and Lauren Jackson and Carrie Graff. What does the WNBL look like in its 50th season in your vision?
Yeah, look, same thing. I think, sell out crowds in appropriate venues. I think we need a venue uplift in some of our cities and that they're full. I got to say, I'm super excited about the new ownership group with the WNBL. I think it's a lot of us on the panel have been waiting for this moment to see someone like the group come in and yeah, I'm excited to see, we've been talking about it for 10, 15, 20 years. I mean, my entire involvement in the WNBL has been about beating that drum, and I think we're on the cusp of seeing the change that we've all so desperately been searching for. So I think it's that. I think we're going to see more private investment and ownership in clubs, more financial sustainability for the clubs, and broadcast that's worthy of the product that we're on free-to-wear television, that we've got a broadcast deal, and the commercial sponsorships are through the roof.
Tess, now working with the Players Association and continuing those strong relationships with the players, what would season 50 look like for them in terms of the conditions for our professional athletes?
Great question, Megs, and the panel's already basically answered it for me. I just add that equal pay, equal work to our male counterparts. So in 5 years' time, I would love to see that be a reality for our WNBL athletes. And yeah, the stadiums suit the athletes and respect the athletes that we have in the game that we produce. It is such a great spectacle, and like Vic said, I've never met a person that's come to a WNBL game and left disappointed. So the main condition that I would like to see is the facilities be up to scratch and what the athletes deserve, and then equal pay, equal work to our male counterparts.
Yeah, that sounds great. Love equal pay, equal work. It's a basic thing, but harder than it seems to achieve. Victoria, without giving away too much IP, what can we look ahead for in season 50 of the WNBL? What would it look like to you?
Yeah, I echo everything that's been said. I think the exciting thing is that we can get there faster than 5 years. I mean, if you look at what's happened over the last 12 months in the WNBA, there's no reason that we can't have the same growth rate, and accelerate. I think, Graffi touched on what MJ did in the 90s for Australian basketball. Well, hopefully, Caitlin Clark and some of the rookies in the WNBA this season will carry that momentum and kind of coolness into female basketball globally, and we'll feel those tailwinds here. But I think 5 years from now feels like a long time away. I think hopefully we're at a point in time where the bare minimum of having professionalism increase across the league and facilities and audiences is not where we're thinking about, and we're on to that next wave of innovation. I think to me there's so much opportunity when we can get the basics right and grow from there. So again, 5 years feels like a long time away. Let's get there sooner.
5 years does feel like a long time away, but when you think about it, 5 years ago, as Tess said earlier, Jade Melbourne was a rookie for Canberra in a hub season. And so that feels a world away, but it was also 5 years ago. We're about to take your questions. We've got some great ones that have come through, but if you would like to quickly send in a question, please do, and we'll put it to our panel. Alicia says, our Japanese exchange student loved the grand final game 3 in the last season. She'd never seen anything like it. Isn't that fantastic? And hopefully she might have headed back to Japan and found a new love of women's basketball. Lorraine says, promote the hell out of our great players and create heroes. It's such a great point. And I think we saw, good on Tess. Tess is back on the comments. Good on you, Tess, engaging 24/7. It's what Tess does at home and away. And Alicia says, yes, lots of stories, women supporting women. So some great comments there. Lorraine says, the product is amazing. We just need to invest. And we had another comment saying, I think game times factor into it, especially with families, with children to be inspired. So that's true. You know, there's so much more on these days and cost of living is affecting everyone. So schedules and things like that certainly play a part as well. Let's crack into some questions before we finish up our She Hoops Huddle Up, previewing the 45th instalment of the WNBL. Tess, will go to you with this one from Maddie. She's age 12, one of your many legions of fans, and she says, Tess, I loved watching you play with the Melbourne Boomers and you are one of my favourite players. Since you've retired from playing, how are you approaching this WNBL season?
Great question. I should have answered your last question as well by saying I wish I was just starting my basketball career instead of retiring from it. I think basketball in Australia and globally, especially for women and girls, is in a really great space. And I wish I was just starting and, hopefully could become a millionaire like the males out there. But to answer your question, I can't wait to be a fan. I'm a huge basketball fan anyway. I watch every WNBL game, every WNBA game, every NBL game. So I just can't wait to be a fan and really get around. I've still got a lot of really great friends in the league. I think that's one of the great things about the WNBL is that we're super competitive on the court, very feisty. Sometimes, it could take a week for me to be able to talk to my friends again from the other team, but I just can't wait to cheer on all my friends and watch them shine and try and help in any way I can to shine a light on all the great things they do on and off the court.
Yes, will you be doing any commentating?
Oh, that's what I was just going to say. Good on you, Timsy.
Oh, we'll see. Hopefully I can fit in a couple of games, Timsy, if you could give me any tips like you did for my first game I got to commentate alongside Graffy, so you're both very helpful. I appreciate it.
Good question, Timsy. I think that will be a popular question, and we look forward to hearing and seeing Tess in commentary during the season. LJ, one for you. Having watched you play for Southside last season, it was pretty special. Any chance of a sneaky game or two this season?
No chance. No, I'm done.
Well, we've heard that a lot of times.
No, mate. No, I'm
Farnham
out.
of women's sport.
Yeah, that's it. No way. No, I'm good. No, I've just had a knee replacement as well, so I literally have to look after it.
That means you're good to go.
I don't know, mate. No, I'm done.
What about wheelchair basketball? Because if you had a knee replacement, you'd be a 4.5er. You'd have a nice little leaner.
I don't have any. I've got nothing in me left. There's nothing in me that wants to even step foot on a basketball court. So, no.
Rollers and gliders, they're leading the way for our wheelchair basketball space. So LJ, not sure you're a starter for the gliders, but I love that Graffy knew your classification. So points to you there, Graffy. We do have a question here, and I'll put it to whoever would like to answer it from the panel. Why are so many of the top female Australian players taking up European contracts versus playing in the WNBL? Anyone want to take that first?
Money, money, money.
Yeah.
To echo Graffy's comment, and you can't blame them if players can earn 3 or 4 times more playing in Europe with current salaries, they're going to take it.
Yeah, and I think too, there's a lifestyle thing as well. Like a lot of the girls want the opportunity to go and travel too, and experience different opportunities, and it's that pathway piece as well. But I think looking forward, the WNBL is definitely going to be the place to be.
And we've seen players, obviously, in recent years head to Europe to try and further continue to develop their game. And mentioned Steph Reed before, playing in Hungary, and I think it'll be a great opportunity for her to continue building on her game as she continues to chase national team aspirations. But in saying that, Loz talked about earlier how stacked Bendigo are, and isn't it wonderful Mariana Tolo's returning to the WNBL? Graffy sort of Tolo's never played, a bit like Lauren before she signed with Southside, had never played for a club outside of the nation's capital. So Tolo's obviously played for the AIS and the Caps. Lauren was the same, AIS and the Caps before Southside. So it'll be interesting to see Tolo in different colours. And as Graffy said, we'll get to see Bendigo take on Canberra in round 2.
Yeah, round 2, AIS Arena.
And to think your last game at the AIS Arena, Griffin and Tolo were, and was Kelly in that one as well? But Tolo and Griffin certainly were a big part in you raising that championship.
Yeah, they were. So it'll be an interesting contest, and it'll be a sellout winning. So it'll be a great one.
Yeah, it'll be fantastic. If you've got any final questions, send them through before we finish up tonight. I'm just looking here. I think we've covered most of them. So if we've got any others, just drop them in the chat now and we can quickly get them in. Otherwise, thank you so much for joining us tonight for our Huddle Up for She Hoops. It's been a little while since we've had an online event, and it's how it all really kicked off in the She Hoops space, particularly coming out of the pandemic. But we've had some awesome in-person events the last couple of years, and there's plenty more coming up on the calendar in 2025 and beyond. So we thank everyone for joining us tonight. And we know lots of people will catch up with us on the She Hoops website. We'll put that link out on socials as well. So we'll thank our panel for joining us for the last hour. It's been a fascinating chat. Graffy, thanks to you and good luck to your Caps this season. We look forward to seeing them back at the holy grail, the heart and soul of the Canberra Capitals at the AIS Arena.
Thanks for having me, Max.
Looking forward to hearing you in commentary too. Victoria, thanks for joining us tonight. It's been great to hear more about your connection with basketball, doing such amazing work in the club space at the Sydney Flames, and we can't wait to see the role that you continue to play in shaping the future of the WNBL. Good luck to you and the Flames. You get things underway on Sunday. You're hosting Graffy's Caps.
Sure are. It's a doubleheader at Kudos if anyone's in Sydney.
Be there or be square. Thanks, Victoria, for joining us tonight. Timsy, thank you for joining us after your big couple of weeks where you were fangirled by a movie star. Do you want to quickly tell us who that was before we finish up?
Bill Murray was one of my highlights, actually. Getting a photo alongside him. So yeah, I'm a big Caddyshack fan and Groundhog Day, so it was very special.
And a big Christy Harrower fan. She makes her coaching debut leading the Southside Flyers. They take on Perth in a grand final rematch on Saturday night. Can't wait for that game. And just a little plug, we've got a Christy Harrower story coming tomorrow on ESPN. Can't wait to see what she does next. Tess, good luck to you as you continue your foray into the 9 till 5 or 8 till 4 or whatever it is in this working life. And we look forward to seeing you at the stadiums around the country and also in commentary.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me and being a part of this panel. It really is an honour. So thank you, Loz, for asking me.
Always first asked. I think that's what Loz was saying. And Loz, thank you for all the work you continue to do with She Hoops. And you're going to have a season of a different kind. You're going to be in a very comfortable viewing position, and I'm sure that'll be nice after, a successful couple of years. But I'm sure you're looking forward to being a fan again.
Yes, absolutely. I can't wait for it to start on Wednesday. But I'm definitely looking forward to being cuddled up with my little boys on the couch and watching it from home. So
yeah, it sounds lovely. Well, the season tips off on Wednesday night. Catch us on ESPN 7 p.m. local time as Geelong United make their WNBL debut hosting the Townsville Fire, and then the games to follow: Bendigo and Adelaide, Perth and Southside, and Sydney and the UC Caps are on 9 now and 9 Go on Sunday. So make sure you catch them on the TV or get to a game, buy a membership, buy a ticket, and get behind the WNBL in its 45th season. Thanks so much for joining us tonight. We look forward to seeing you again on a Huddle Up very soon. But until then, we'll see you at the basketball. Good night.